Donald Trump is crashing out as his attempt to change the terms of the ceasefire that he agreed to with Iran. It ain't working. Iran is calling him out. So Donald Trump, in response to being exposed to agreeing to all 10 of Iran's principal negotiating terms, and nobody's believing Donald Trump and Iran agreed to Trump's 15-point plan when Donald Trump posted, "I've agreed to Iran's 10-point plan," in his initial social media post that Trump lies about everything. Now Trump is lashing out against NATO, and he's blaming NATO for everything because Donald Trump is a Putin puppet, a Putin syphant, and we're seeing that play out. Donald Trump met with Mark Rutte. Mark Rutte, as the Secretary General of NATO, showed up in the White House, and then it was reported from the Wall Street Journal that Donald Trump is planning to pull U.S. troops out from NATO countries.
And he said that he may put them in the countries that he likes, but he is going to punish NATO because he said he tested NATO during his unlawful and catastrophic war in Iran. And NATO did not pass Donald Trump's test when Donald Trump and Netanyahu invaded Iran without telling NATO they were going to do it. And when they went it alone, NATO should have telepathically realized what Donald Trump was going to do and then have Donald Trump's back. Even as Donald Trump ranted and raved, "I don't want NATO's help. We can open up the Strait of Hormuz on our own." And Trump said, "I'm looking to punish Spain. I'm looking to punish Germany. We're going to pull out of NATO." Well, just stop whining about it. I'm not even sure if NATO fully exists anymore. I know it exists in name only. But where Donald Trump continues to threaten the existence of NATO every single day and says that he won't comply with the security guarantees that are inherent in NATO. I mean, what is the point? And at some point, rather than Mark Rutte being like, "Okay, Donald, okay." I mean, shouldn't NATO just say, "Then go, then leave"? If you want to break apart NATO and you want to be Putin's puppet, just go and do it. Just go and do it. You could kiss Putin's, you know what, and Xi Jinping leave NATO at this point. What are you doing, right? And this is what Donald Trump is doing, lashing out, trying to distract from the catastrophic deal and the catastrophic and unlawful war which was launched to cover up for Donald Trump's cover-up of the Epstein files, the sex trafficking ring that he and his DOJ are covering up. And the ceasefire is falling apart. I called it earlier this morning. I mean, moments ago or a little bit earlier, there were new Israeli airstrikes in Beirut, Lebanon, in addition to the ones that killed over 100 people. I think like 250 people in Lebanon were murdered today by Israel, and most of those people were civilians. I mean, Israel bombed a funeral that was taking place, and they killed people at the funeral. They killed all these people in Beirut. And in the ceasefire agreement that Donald Trump entered into with Iran, it was very clear that one of the 10 terms was security guarantees in Lebanon for Hezbollah. I mean, it said it in the agreement. And moments ago, Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi posted the following: "The Iran-U.S. ceasefire terms are clear and explicit. The U.S. must choose ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. The world sees the massacre in Lebanon that took place today, and it's been happening for a while. But today, Israel just went even crazier in their mass killing. The ball is in the U.S. court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitments." Here you have the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sharif. Here's what he posted when the deal was announced. This was the independent mediator. This was the neutral. So if you go, "Hey, Ben, yes, we get it. Trump lies about everything, but we don't trust the Iranian regime. So who should we trust here?" I'm not saying that Pakistan is an honest arbiter of information. Far from it. But what I am saying is they were the mediator in this situation, and they wrote that the ceasefire is between U.S. and Iran, along with their allies, including in Lebanon. I mean, it says it right there. Now, a senior Iranian official, Mohsen Razi, just posted the following: "We stand with all our might alongside the Hezbollah Mujahideen, and we will punish the Zionist enemy. The responsibility for the collapse of the ceasefire lies with America, which either does not want to or cannot leash its rabid dog. Violations of the ceasefire by America will also not be tolerated." Now you have the U.S., Israel, UAE, and Saudi Arabia accusing Iran of launching missiles into Israel, into Saudi Arabia, into Kuwait, into some of its neighbors. And then you have Iran showing the video footage of what's happening in Beirut and what's happening in Iran. One of the things that seems to have happened as well, and this is notable, that it seems that because the U.S. and Israel said, "Well, we've agreed to the ceasefire," that Israel is now using United Arab Emirates Air Force Mirage 2009 fighters, which earlier today bombed the Iranian refinery plant in the island of Lavon after the ceasefire was announced. So that the U.S. and Israel go, "Well, we didn't do it," because the UAE and Saudi Arabia Although while they've been going at it against each other lately, especially over issues in Yemen, they are terrified right now that Donald Trump agreed to the 10-point Iranian plan, which makes Iran a superpower in the region. And Iran saying, we're a superpower in the region, we control the Strait of Hormuz. Part of the ceasefire plan that Donald Trump agreed to, as we collect a toll $2 million essentially per ship that adds hundreds of billions of dollars to Iran's GDP. UAE and Saudi Arabia, we can't do this. And so I think they're working with Israel now to try to blow up this ceasefire as well, because they can't live with a 10-point plan like this that Donald Trump agreed to. You have Iranian air defense saying it shot down an Israeli drone recently today since the ceasefire over the Khuzestan province, with the crash killing a 7-year-old girl and wounding 6 others. A local official is saying in all either 3 or 4 ships were permitted by the Iran Navy to cross through the Strait of Hormuz. Before the ceasefire, we were starting to see 10 to 12 ships. So since the ceasefire, less oil ships, less tankers have gone through the Strait of Hormuz than before the ceasefire. And then there was one ship that recently tried to pass to test Iran, and then it quickly circled back when the Iranian Navy came out and was about to obliterate it. And we're seeing the markets recognize this as well. The futures crude WTI crude rose about $2.50 in the past hour or so, up to $96 a barrel. So the oil market is looking at this very anxiously and saying, whoa, this deal is going to allow Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz, and ships aren't being allowed to leave. So can we focus on the actual circumstances versus all of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's lies? Also, the S&P 500 futures and the market, after obviously having a good day today because of what was obviously massive market manipulation, which is why I think Donald Trump, is doing well. Most of this is based on market manipulation to begin with. I think the markets are very nervous that this ceasefire is about to end momentarily. And I think that, I don't know, I've been saying this from the very outset, again, not to be hyperbolic, while all the other media networks out there were talking ceasefires. I've been going through the 10-point plan. I've explained that Iran's been consistent with what they've been saying about the plan. Iran's foreign minister Arachi and Galibaf, the head of their parliament, continued to make clear the 10-point plan was always the same 10-point plan. They got Donald Trump to make a social media post embracing the 10-point plan. And so, that's where we're at. Meanwhile, India is saying that Donald Trump and the Treasury Department will be giving an extension on sanctions against Russia, allowing India and likely other countries to continue to buy sanctioned oil. So Trump attacking NATO, giving gifts to Putin. You had J.D. Vance leaving Hungary, where he was hanging out with Viktor Orban to try to influence the Hungarian elections, with Putin to uplift Orban in the elections that are there in a few days. He was literally campaigning with Orban. And then moments ago, you had J.D. Vance right here as his trip in Hungary came to an end. And here's what he said about Galibaf. Remember, Galibaf is Iran's parliament leader who was the main negotiator from Iran with Pakistan. And J.D. Vance was working on the Trump side, apparently, with this 10-point plan, which is they agreed to Iran's full 10-point plan. And now, like the gaslighter that he is, J.D. Vance says, I actually wonder if the issue here is that Galibaf's English is no good. He's bad at English. So maybe he didn't understand what we were saying, and that's why they don't understand the terms of the ceasefire. No, they know English. They know what they're doing. Stop with this crap, J.D., and this whole idiotic Trump regime. They rejected your 15-point plan. You accepted their 10-point plan. It lists all of the things that are in there. But here's some gaslighting from J.D. Vance. Play this clip. A lot of agreement. That's point number 1. Point number 2, to respond to each of those issues, and I read it very closely. Let me just say this. I actually wonder how good he is at understanding English, because there are things that he said that frankly didn't make sense in the context of the negotiations that we've had. But to address the 3 points, first of all, he talked about an attack that had allegedly happened on Iran and how that was a violation of the ceasefire. Ceasefires are always messy. An hour after the president announced the ceasefire, the Iranians launch a bunch of missiles. Then the Israelis responded. Then J.D. Vance says, well, if they break their end of the bargain, they're going to face serious consequences. You are now trying to change all of the terms of the agreement that was entered with them, the 10-point plan that they've talked about. Watch J.D. Vance lie even more. Play this clip. We have a ceasefire, and frankly, if they break their end into the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences. And then J.D. Vance makes this weird comment about his wife jumping out of airplanes. Let's play it. The second thing Golub said, which again I found fascinating, is he said, "We refuse to give up the right to enrichment." And I thought to myself, you know what? My wife has the right to skydive, but she doesn't jump out of an airplane because she and I have an agreement that she's not going to do that because I don't want my wife jumping out of an airplane. We don't really concern ourselves with what they claim they have the right to do. We concern ourselves with what they actually do. And I think the president's been very clear on the enrichment question. More from J.D. Vance here that says, if Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them, that is ultimately their choice. Now again, this reflects not just a lie about the deal, but an ignorance of Iran and Iran's influence in Lebanon and its relationship with Hezbollah. And this was a deal term that you agreed to. So this is what Trump's done his whole life with contracts. He claims he agrees to things, then breaks them, then I'm going to rip it to shreds. This is a term you agree to. It's not that they're going to break the ceasefire over Lebanon. You're going to break the term that you agree to because you know this is what Trump and Vance do with all of these things. All of their fake trade deals that they've done. It's the same shtick. It's the same playbook. Here, play this clip of J.D. Vance. But look, if Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice. Then J.D. Vance, I think maybe this was just a reasonable understanding. A reasonable understanding here. Play this clip right here. I think the third thing that he said was Lebanon was Lebanon. Okay? And again, I actually think that is a reasonable misunderstanding, but neither U.S. nor the Israelis said that that was going to be part of the ceasefire. Again, we're working with people to try to get through some of these things, but it's really fundamentally we're on the right track. And meanwhile, you have Netanyahu saying the following. He said, the enriched uranium will come out of Iran either by agreement or by the resumption of the fighting. We still have some goals to accomplish, Netanyahu says, and we will achieve them either through agreement or through the renewal of war. We are ready to do so whenever is necessary. So, he's talking about war and more war right now. And as for the enriched material which still remains in Iran, and just like as senior officials in the Trump administration have said, this material, the enriched uranium, will completely come out of Iran, and it will be done either by agreement or by renewing the war. Now you have Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister of Spain, say just today Netanyahu launches his harshest attack against Lebanon since the offensive began. His contempt for life and international law is intolerable. It's time to speak clearly. Lebanon must be included in the ceasefire. The international community must condemn this new violation of international law. The European Union must suspend its association agreement with Israel, and there must be no impunity for these criminal acts. Going back to J.D. Vance for a moment here, J.D. Vance says that this is a total lie. He goes, we've already seen an increase in in traffic in the Strait of Hormuz today, so we think it's picking up. Not only is there not an increase, J.D., it's less than before the ceasefire. And that's a fact. That's why we have to be rooted in the facts of what's really going on here. Less ships have crossed the Strait of Hormuz today than before the ceasefire. It was like 3 or 4. But listen to J.D. Vance lie here. Play this clip. Well, we've already seen an increase in traffic today. Hopefully, we'll see an increase in traffic tomorrow. We actually think that we are seeing signs that the straits are starting to reopen. I think you guys have probably seen oil prices have come down. So I think the oil markets, the gas markets are seeing the same thing. But the president's very, very clear. The deal is a ceasefire, a negotiation. That's what we give, and what they give is that straits are going to be reopened. If we don't see that happening, the president is not going to abide by our terms if the Iranians are not abiding by their terms. And then finally, a reporter asked J.D. Vance, is the threat to wipe Iranian civilization off the map still on the table? Let's play this clip right here. The to wipe Iranian civilization off the map still on the table. And is it fair to keep 90 million Iranians under that threat for the actions of their leaders? Well, look, the leadership is really to blame for the condition of the country in Iran. The president of the United States has made very clear that the United States has a lot of leverage here. We have economic leverage. We've got military leverage. What he's trying to do is make sure the American people are safe. and strike a deal that's good for the American people. I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. And there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. And thanks for watching. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MidasPlus.com.